Okay, guys, pest and building time. Congratulations, you've just got your property under contract. That is what we want. You've got it done. You've just secured your first property and you want to celebrate, but we're not there just yet. So we would have had some clauses in that contract, and those clauses would have been maybe 14-day pest and building and a 14-day finance. It may be, if you're in some regional locations, 21 and 21, because it takes a little bit longer to get those reports and then finance as well. But something around that. The beautiful thing about contracts exchange, as we already discussed, is that you're in control. You are now the one with the power, and we all like having power. We all like having control. And that is the ideal. So what are we going to do next? We need to book in the pest and building. So that's the next step. In this section of the course, I'm going to outline exactly how you do it, the actions that you need to do to keep this sucker on track. At the end of this, I also have an email that you will send out to your, like an email template to book in the pest and building. And the way these pest and building works is they're there to look as bad as possible, right? This is because the pest and building inspector has insurance and he needs to CYA, cover your bleep. So he needs to cover his own butt. So the report is going to read like the entire place is falling down. But don't let that scare you. What you must do, oh no, I'll do it, don't do it later. No, do it. What you must do is call the inspector personally, have a conversation with him as a human being or her, and they are going to be usually far more open and give you more real world details about what's going on. You have to do this. I 100% recommend it. If you don't, you're going to be leaving money on the table, and we don't want to leave money on the table. So one thing, just a quick note, I'm sure we'll cover it off throughout this though, is when you are speaking with the when you're booking in a pest and building inspector or choosing one for your next deal, always ask them, can I have a conversation? Like you call the company, like the 1300 number. Hey, yes, let's just say I've got this report. I need to speak with the inspector. Is that possible? And some companies will say, no, that's not possible. Great. Avoid that company entirely because you need to have that conversation. Now, the other thing to note at the end of this section, or it might be in another session, depending on how long this one goes for, I'm going to give you a real world deal, how I enacted absolutely everything in this, and I got the vendor to give us a free bathroom. So we got a brand new, I'm pretty sure it's a brand new bathroom and a brand new ensuite. It is actually, it was. Yeah, it was two new brand new bathrooms because we did the things in this report. So every problem, and you're going to hear me say this all day, and I literally was speaking to a client about it. Pest and building is like, we bought a couple of properties for him and he's like, Joe, yes, I know what you're going to say. Every problem has a solution. It just has a cost attached to it. And that is exactly what it is. The report is there to identify what problems exist, how serious they are, and then we need to work out what is the cost of fixing them. Name it, number it, numb it. Great. The problem is we've got a water leak in the bathroom. We need to number how much that's going to cost to fix, and then we're going to numb it. So the reason why we do these pest and buildings is because a quick walkthrough is not going to reveal everything. So the inspector does like your walkthrough inspection that's organized by your property manager or another inspector. They're not going to look at structural issues. They're not going to look at water damage. They're not going to look at pest infestation. They're not going to look for high moisture readings and all these other risks that you don't know about and you don't understand, which is going to affect the price. So one thing to actually mention, this is for everybody, when you're buying a property, there is always problems. There are always problems that are going to be there. So expect 5 to 10 grand of works that need to be done, little bits and pieces. And when you go back to negotiate with the agent, don't always think they're going to be on top of it with you, because they're going to be like, look, it's an old house. Of course there's issues. Of course there's going to be little things like that. So sometimes you just need to factor that in. But knowing these issues up front are going to just help you decide whether or not you go ahead with that property or not. Okay. And if it aligns with those goals. So that's the whole point of this. Do we proceed with this deal as it is? So we need to identify all the problems. We need to work out the cost attached. Do we proceed? Do we negotiate, or do we walk away? In another video later on, I have me walking through a real world pest and building report, calling up the inspector, going through it all, and then unfortunately having to crash the deal. I didn't go through how you crash the deal. That's pretty easy. Hey, Mr. Agent, we're just crashing the deal and let the conveyancers know. But yes, that's really good as well. So the whole point of this, let me bring it up. Pest and building inspectors, a comprehensive guide for new property investors. It doesn't need to be for new property investors. I bet there's a lot of stuff in here that old property investors have in here that they don't know about, and you may have left money on the table. Contracts exchanged, congratulations. What problems exist? How serious are they? Finding the right inspector. So before we go to that, let's do this. So we've got that 14-day clause. That's how you're going to do it. Get the report back and satisfy the clause, walk away or negotiate. So how do we find the right inspector? Not all inspectors are created equally. So you got to make sure that they have the proper qualifications. They're insured. So ask that question, and that have good Google reviews and Facebook reviews and things like that. The other thing to mention as well is just ask in this community. You guys are a part of a little community here. Ask in here, someone will know it. And if we can give any feedback or any people that we've used that are valuable, then we'll just ask the question. We can do that. What else? We need to lock in the inspection with the agent. This is your job, right? All that is an email template at the bottom of this course. Send that to the inspector, and typically the agent and the inspector calls the agent. Okay, so you don't need to sit there. Hey, Mr. Agent, are you available? Hey, Mr. Inspector, are you available? But it's a bloody nightmare. That's what their job is. They'll do it all for you. So the way it works, strategic timing. So don't book it in ASAP. Okay, I have a 14-day window here, right? You want to book the pest and building 5 days before or 4 days before the clause expires. Okay, so you don't want to, okay, the pest and building, you've just gone under contract today. Hey, Mr. Pest and Building Inspector, when can you get out there? Oh, I can get out there tomorrow. Do you want to do that? No, you don't. And I bet some people are there like, yeah, what the hell are you talking about, Joe? Why would I not book it as soon as possible? So what we want to do is we want to create a situation which gives us the best odds of negotiating, okay? So again, this is one of those ones where it's going to sound like, Joe, you're trying to negotiate, you're trying to get the best situation for yourself. So I'm just going to say what I'm trying to say. So why are we doing this? Because it gives 14-day pest and building, it gives us time for all of the other buyers that may have been interested in this property to disappear and run off on other deals. So what is that doing? That is leaving the agent and the vendor high and dry for the deal. So they're not going to be able to call back these people and say, hey, yeah, we just are negotiating with this guy, Joe, and yeah, we don't want to sell it to him anymore because he's asking for a massive discount or he's asking for a new bathroom. Well, there's no one to call. So you want to wait it out until the end of time, as close to the key date as possible, so that when you do renegotiate, you have that power. Because what will happen is you'll book in the pest and building the next day. So day one, the agent's going to call, great, how did it go? Have you got the report? No, I haven't got the report yet. Day two, great, have you got the report? Yeah, I've got the report. Great. What's the situation? So you want to get to day 14, say day 12, and then have that conversation. I think I've made that pretty clear. That gives you leverage, and leverage is what you need as a buyer. Okay. Hope that makes sense. I hope I haven't upset anyone with the reality of negotiating, but that's just is what it is. Follow up. If you don't have the confirmation that the agent and the inspector have booked in that pest and building, a quick text to the agent to make sure it's booked in, or a call to the inspector. Just make sure it's there, because what you don't want, there are some markets that are incredibly hot. Inspectors are very busy. They forget you. They miss your email. That's why we send the email. I hear people calling and just hoping for the best. So what's covered? What's covered in these pest and building reports? The way it works, building and pest inspectors follow the Australian standards. I should have put this number up on the screen, actually. AS 4349.1 for buildings and 43493/2010 for timber and pest. They assess what is visible, meaning that they don't dismantle walls and they don't dismantle flooring. They don't move cupboards. They don't move shelves. They don't. So if you've got a house that has a lot of junk, there's a lot less that's covered. But this is what the pest and building inspectors do cover. So when you're reviewing these reports, you've got to check. This is what they're checking. So you'll see all the pictures and the things of that. So we've got, kitchen, bathroom, living areas, bedrooms, external areas, external walls, ceilings, roofs, all of that. Now, one thing to mention, subfloor and roof space. So they look at the ventilation, the insulation. Now, if there's insulation, they can't look under the insulation. So they don't know what's underneath there. What is underneath insulation is just a ceiling anyway. That's why it's so light. But do know if they can't get into the roof and they can't get into the subfloor, then they won't be able to do the report on that. So there might be some missing things there. So just have that as a bit of a consideration. Pest inspections include termite activity, mudding, tunnels, hollow timbers, discarded wings, borers, rodents, and other infested things. Gross. That's what they cover. And then also they do try and find if there's any pest treatments. So they'll see like drill holes where they directly inject chemicals in to stop the pests. They'll try and go into the meter box. So there might be a pest treatment done or not done. Usually that is held in the meter box. But what happens is sometimes that meter box is like, it's got wet and it's gross, and then you don't know. Like it's all, it might say, great, we have a pest treatment, and then the date's rubbed out, which really sucks. What is not covered? I think what's not covered is very important as well. They are not electricians. So electrical systems and wiring, power points, appliances, all of that kind of stuff is not covered. Now, this is very crucial to find out. So this electrical systems is very key. So we want to understand, is the meter box an upgraded one or a not upgraded one? Is it old? They need to have RCD, so like safety switches embedded onto the meter box in most states. So in Queensland, Victoria, this needs to be done. You need to make sure that you do it. Otherwise, you're the one that's due to pay for all of that. So it'll be $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. But again, every problem has a solution. It just has a cost attached to it. So when you do your inspection, they're not checking the meter box, which is why, again, we're doing this pest and building. Plumbing, they're not plumbers, but they're plumbing hidden inside walls. So they can't see stuff that's hidden behind the walls. They won't check a pressure test. They won't do that stuff, but they will be able to see leaks. So they'll look underneath the sink. They'll look underneath the plumbing. They'll look at the toilet. Think about that. Air conditioning and heating systems. Some pest and builders turn it on to check if it works. Others really just don't care. This is what you need to be doing when you're doing an inspection, and also the pre-settlement inspection as well. Pools, spas, and their filtration systems. You need to book a pool. If you're buying a pool, now I buy properties with pools. I think this example that I'm going to run through you at the end of this, where I got a free bathroom for a client, not unfortunately, I'm very happy for them, but it wasn't for me. But we needed to get a pest. We needed to pay the extra $300. So we just paid $600 for a pest and building, but we then needed to pay another $300 for the pool inspection to make sure everything's done. Then what happened is we found problems with that pool inspection, which then required us to get a discount on the pool works, and it became a big part of the thing. The negotiation. Structural engineering assessments. So if there's a structure that's on the property, they're not like, oh yeah, that's structurally sound. They have no idea. They might have an idea, but it's not a part of their report. So what you need to do, what this says here is bring extra specialists. So if you're concerned about any of these, bring extra specialists in. And that is, well, we're going to go through that soon enough. Just want to talk. So that's like, bring the structural engineer, bring the pool inspector, bring the gas fitting electrical, get an electrical check done if you're not sure. Cool. What happens if termites are found? So understanding the pest inspection, right? So pest inspections happen all the time. If you find pest inside a minor infestation, so what you will do in not most of Australia, but a lot of Australia. So I'm talking this sometimes in WA, a lot of the times in South Australia, especially in areas where there's lots of foliage, any area that has a lot of trees and stuff, you can expect Queensland all the time. There is always not always, but there are termites in the, not the property, but in the outside of the property. So if you find termites outside the property, you want to get them treated and kill them straight away. But then also you want to identify if there's any problems. So what are termites and what are they about? I'm not a termite expert, so I can't really give you the orthology or ontology or whatever that thing is. But essentially, termites eat wood. Houses are made out of wood. A lot of houses are made out of wood. And if they eat your wood, that's not good. God. Okay, maybe we should cut that bit out. But what am I saying is you can get them treated if they're in the yard. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see termites in the yard, and then inside the property, we don't want to see a high moisture reading in major places, because termites are attracted to moisture, and that moisture draws them into the house and they start chewing away. So soft, supple wood is easier to eat. They get excited by that. They then make their way into the house. But if there's no high moisture readings, that is absolutely fine. So typical treatment to actually spot treat will be like $300 or $700 or something along those lines. To do a basic treatment, it will be $1,500-ish. And to do a full house, about $3,500 to do a full chemical barrier. Could go into $4,000, $5,000, depending on where you are. Now, severe damage. That is one of the videos that we have in the next section where we pulled out of a deal. If it's structural, fixing it could cost up to $10,000. Or it could cost up to $100,000. This is typically a deal breaker. If we find termites inside the house, the general rule is we walk away. In fact, we've never bought a house when we found termites in the house. Now, I have found termites in a garage that was disconnected from the house, and we didn't care about the garage because we we're going to knock it down and subdivide. That's cool. We then got an inspector. We then paid an extra inspector, an extra man money, to go out there and do the treatment. Sorry, not do the treatment, just go again. So this guy did a pest and building treatment. He noticed those. And then I'm like, hey, do you know any pest treatments? Because we need to get a treatment done to the house right now because there are active termites and we're going to continue buying this property. So can you go out there, check if there are any in the house, and then we'll pay for the spray to do it. I think we negotiated that with the vendor to organize all of that stuff so that it's done. But general rule, if you find termites in the house, just run. Because especially if they're in the roof, yeah? Because what happens is ants, they're on the ground. To get from the ground to the roof, they have had to crawl and eat their way up, and it's a terrible situation. So don't be dealing with that. What to expect in the report? Major structural defects. This is what you'll expect. Major, minor, and pest activity. So issues that could make the property dangerous and unsafe. These are live active wiring issues. These are structural issues, structural cracking, things that are falling over, those type of things. And then there's minor defects. You'll see a whole heap of minor defects. The pest and builder's job is to build a massive scary list, and then your job is to understand the price and cost attached to that, and then any signs of pest infestation that we talk about. Like what, Joe? There we go. Foundation movement, roof instability, high cost, rethink the purchase. So if the foundations are structurally misaligned, you've really got to watch out for that. I really haven't gotten too many reports of that, but they do exist and it does happen. One thing to actually note on this is you will see structural cracking and movement in most houses. So you look up in your house right now. Yep, there you go. Look at that. There's literally a crack line, a very thin line right there in the place that I'm in in the studio I'm in right now, because that's just how it works. They're everywhere. So don't be scared of little micro cracks where paint and patch will fix it. It's if you can put your little pinky finger through it. So ask the inspector, like, how big is it? And do you think you could put your pinky in it? And he's like, yeah, it's bad. Okay, cool. We actually just bought a property in Geelong. No, it wasn't Geelong. The third property we got was a major renovation. We just re-stumped it because the cracking was large. Every problem has a solution. It just has a cost attached to it. I just paid $14,000 on just the stumps alone, but it made sense because now the cracks, what happened was the stumps, they're all on stumps. The stumps fell down. That concave the thing, and then part of the roof, like part of the ceiling cracked. And then now, yeah, okay, now I'm rambling. Small issues, small cracks, gutter rust, low cost stuff, standard for older properties. So just expect that stuff. Okay, so what else? Expect strong wording. Now, I don't mean swear words. I don't mean swear words at all. What I mean is these guys are going to be saying this place is absolutely done. Get out. That's what the report's going to feel like when you read it. So expect that, okay? So just don't be alarmed. Don't be upset. Don't be worried. Every problem has a solution. It just has a cost attached. So what do? We always call the inspector, right? A short phone call is going to clarify which findings are genuine and which ones are something to worry about. So this is a good opportunity to also discuss potential solutions. So pest and building guys are generally, and girls, although I've never had a female pest and building inspector, they are generally ex-builders. And they're like, oh, I've been building for years. I just do this on the side. I'll get $600. It's all good. And so they know about this stuff. So I'm friendly. So you'll see it in the next video where we walk out of a pest and building. You'll hear how friendly I am to this guy. I'm just having a normal chat with an everyday bloke, and he's here to professionally give me his opinion. So what will happen is always just say, hey, mate, look, I know you don't know, but like, I know you probably might have an idea. You're obviously an expert builder or what your background is. How much do you think it would cost to fix this thing? And then they'll be like, oh, mate, yeah, look, it's actually not that bad. These cracks, mate, that's just patch and paint. Don't worry about it. Oh, but it says in your report it's a major defect. Yeah, you got to protect me. I've got to protect myself there, but it's not that major, right? Things to expect. Okay, so these are some of the things that you should expect in your pest and building report. High moisture reading in the showers. So often fixed with regrouting. So what happens is any property, I think I note it somewhere. I think I note the year. I think it's 1996. Any property was pre-1996 didn't have a requirement to waterproof. So what happens is you're buying these houses, they're 30, 40 years old. Grout is fibrous, and fibrous grout allows moisture over 30 years to start to seep into it. So you'll put your little the guy will put their meter reading in high moisture reading and be like, oh, that's no good. What you then have to do, which we'll talk to soon enough, but let's say it's fine. Let's say the grout's fine. All you need to do is get another guy over there or girl, and they regrout it. And essentially what they do, they get a big grinder and they grind all of the grout out. They chip it out, and then they regrout it all over again. And that costs $1,200 to $1,800. I just recently did this in my own personal house. I didn't do it because it was by far the worst job. I was like, I'm not paying this guy enough. It is the worst job ever. It's just loud. It took him 2 days. It's a bastard. Anyway, rambling again. Put it on 1.5 speed, please. Asbestos, manageable if undisturbed, specialist for removals. So one thing to mention, this is a bit of a key point. There is asbestos everywhere in Australia. Okay, so don't be too concerned if you find asbestos. What a bit of a problem is if the asbestos is broken up and damaged. The other thing is every problem has a solution. It just has a cost attached to it, right? So how much does it cost to remove asbestos? That's the question you need to ask yourself. And my guess is you may be more towards, asbestos, terrible, walk away. It's going to cost $100,000. No, it's not. It's going to cost a little bit extra. You just need a little bit extra certification, a little bit more extra protection. It doesn't cost as much as you actually think if you need to remove it. So while we're on the topic of asbestos, I thought I'd just show you this house. This is literally a house someone just showed me, a client who just said, hey, what are your thoughts of this? So I just wanted to go through real quick and see if we can see any asbestos. So normal low set brick, all this paneling is not asbestos. This is just wooden paneling, I believe. Okay, here's the inside of the house. Can you see any asbestos? I cannot. Where do you find asbestos? So you find asbestos in the kitchen, especially if they've got those old tiling. Like you'll see really old tiling that like flakes away. That's most likely asbestos. In wet areas, in bathrooms, because it's a very good material. Now, all of this bathroom and so all of this kitchen's been changed, so there won't be any asbestos in here. Yeah. Some things that I'm looking out for, just a bit of a keen eye when it comes to some of these things. Like, I don't like that there's an air conditioner in there. That's a bit weird. And I was looking at this thing and I pointed out, I think this is, yeah, the reno job. So this here is weird, dodgy flooring, and my little head's in the way of this section here. But if you look, there's a gap between, there's a massive gap here in the woodwork. So just one little gap here tells me that, one, this paneling is not meant to be, like that's floor paneling by the looks of things. It shouldn't really be on the walls. So it tells me that this is a bit of a home job reno. And what that tells me, I love these high ceilings. I love the architraves on it. Beautiful. What that tells me is that I can't trust the renovation. It's also been very well styled, which tells me that, hey, that's interesting. What else? It looks a little dodgy around these bits as well and on the vanity. All I'm saying, the reason I'm telling you this is because just things to look out for. Now, don't know if you're seeing the asbestos, but this is, I'm going to say 99% sure this is an asbestos shed. So I looked at this shed and I'm like, okay, cool. So what's the go with this? It looks very interesting. And then the next photo, we got the house. So under here are the things called eaves. There are sometimes asbestos in the eaves. Majority of houses in Queensland I forgot what the year is for asbestos, but it got phased out. There will be asbestos in those. That's absolutely fine. So if you find asbestos in the eaves, it's pretty much everywhere. But this is the concern here. Look at that massive crack in the asbestos shed. So what that means, we need to remove that entire shed and get rid of it and replace it with one of these suckers. So that's a really, like, that's going to be a big cost because it is a large surface area for asbestos. So these are the eaves here again, just so you've got that. So that's just one consideration for when it comes to pest and building reports and asbestos. You just need to find out what it's going to cost to remove that shed. Like that's that shed is massive and is asbestos and is going to be a big consideration. Fences as well. I bet those fences may be asbestos. Nope, they're just wood fences. Yep, maybe. In WA, you go to most properties in WA, they have asbestos, but they also have this thing called Super 6. No, that's all wood. Super 6, which looks like asbestos but isn't necessarily asbestos, and then sometimes it is asbestos. So a consideration, but it's so common there that everyone has it. You can't really negotiate on that. So let's carry on. Okay, so what's the next point? Well, the next point, move my little face up here. Asbestos are gutters. Gutters not connected to stormwater pipes. This is, again, a building code thing. The building code right now requires gutters to fall off and go to the street. I'm sure there's builders that are now screaming at me because it's probably worded differently. But back in the day, old houses, they just had the gutter. It would fall down straight from the gutter, just spit out a little bit off the side of the house. So gutters not connected to stormwater. That is a typical problem, but it's what you should expect because the code wasn't required for that. So it's not a major concern. You can't really fix it unless you're going to spend $5,000 to $10,000 on plumbing, but just a consideration. The other one's a bit weird. This one here, missing roof beam. So in WA especially, I've found this in WA and South Australia. I haven't really found this in anywhere else actually. But there is a beam. What happens is they have these big air conditioners in the roof, and then they say, hey, Mr. Air Conditioner, man or woman, can you go out there and just fix my air conditioner, give me a new one. What happens is the air conditioner man or woman goes up there and they remove the beam so that they can get the stuff out or in, whatever they're doing. And they never connect that beam again. They never just they literally drill out the beam, drill out the beam pops off, they put it on the floor. It's literally just a piece of wood that sticks up there, and it's technically a structural beam. So it's going to cost around $500 to fix. And so if you see one structural beam issue, then like if it's that, ask the inspector because they'll know all about it. But I'm just saying, just expect that. And remember as well, actually, while we're talking about pest and building negotiations, remember what your contract must say. You can't renegotiate if the contract doesn't allow you to do it. So, cool. This is a high moisture one, right? It's fine until it's not. Big point. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up a picture. And this picture is of a high moisture reading. You can see that this moisture reading is off the chizzy. It is off the charts. Okay, fully beyond. Look, there's the needle there. So you can see the needle there. That's crazy. It's gone absolutely bananas. Now, this is where you then have to have a conversation. Water damage observed to the bathroom wall, mid to high range. It's massive. It's off the scale, mate. Water damage was observed to the bathroom. There is deteriorated silicone inside the shower screen, which may be the suspected cause of the water leak. It may be suggested suitably trained person to assess the water damage. See, they're not saying that I'm an expert and I know about plumbing, but they're saying, look, I think that the high moisture reading is not a cracked up plumbing. So I see this and I'm fine with this. This is not a major concern because the water has clearly leaked out there, but I want to have that conversation. So you want to confirm that with the pest and building guy and say, hey, and that's exactly what we did. This is a today report that we just got. Hey, what do you think caused that? Is it a cause for concern? What about the rest of the bathroom? Was there high moisture reading in the rest of it, or was it just that one point? Nope, there was no high moisture reading anywhere else. How's the grout? The grout was in great condition. I've got no concerns over that whatsoever. So, yep, that's there. Okay, how do we get these high moisture readings? How do they actually work? There's a fine example, silicone. The silicone leaks through and you get it from there. Splashes from the kids, all right? We have a bath, kids splash, you do all of that stuff. They are now making a mess. So that could cause a high moisture reading. We don't know. That is how it works. A leak from plumbing. Now, this is where it becomes a big deal. Hidden pipes leak behind the walls. So when we do these high pressure, when we do these tests, you just want to make sure that it's not plumbing issues. Shower, bathroom, waterproofing failure. Yeah, there it is. Pre-1996 may not be able to have proper waterproofing, leading to water seeping behind the tiles, which is why you need to do a re-grout. Rising damp, water from the ground. So if they put it on the ground of the concrete, you'll see that there's rising damp. That's a really big concern, but it's more on the brick and concrete areas. Roof leaks, you'll see this in ceilings. You'll see a big water stain. It's not always the end of the world. If there's a missing tile, there's failed flashing, water's leaked in. That's just a consideration that you need to factor in. And then poor ventilation. So we see this a lot. What I always like to do, if I'm ever doing anything electrical in the house, what I always do is say, hey, Mr. Electrician, while you're there, can you please hook up, if it's not already there, there should be a fan for the bathroom. But can you please override the fan so that every time the light is turned on, the fan turns on? And that's it. Like just turn the fan on as soon as the light goes on. And they will then, it means that there's not going to be poor ventilation. Because I hate having the fan on. Like I hate having the fan on in my house because what it does is it cools the house, it cools it down. I'm trying to have a hot shower, it's cooling it down for me. I don't like it. That water then turns into moisture, it then sticks to the roof, it then creates mold and creates big issues from an investment perspective. So do not do it. It's a little thing that saves you thousands of dollars. So factor that in. How to respond to high moisture readings. Two things, 2 steps. Call the inspector. Have that conversation with him. Ask if it's localized to one little area just behind the shower. Do you think it's just the regrout? Do you think there's problems with the plumbing? What is your professional opinion? And then 2, if it's a lot of high moisture in different places throughout, then you need to get a plumber out there to do what we call a pressure test. And what they do is they plumb in, they turn on the taps and they plumb around and they see, okay, the taps are leaking and that's what's caused the pressure. And that means you need to pull off the entire shower to redo the full shower because you can't get access to the pipes without breaking the plumbing unless you can access it from the rear, which is not as typical. So there you go. So what does that mean? You got to call a plumber. He needs to get out there with thermal imagery, leak detection. If it's a waterproof failing a tiler, a waterproof needs to assess what it's going to cost. So usually you just get a plumber out there and they do all of that stuff. Cool. There we go. Decision key takeaway. So really it comes down to decision making, right? So the next steps after this report, if the report is fine, if the report's A-OK, great, proceed with the deal. Thanks, Mr. Agent. We're happy to satisfy the pest and building clause. I'm just going to, yep, that's great. So always communicate with the agent, let them know what you're going to do and move forward with the deal. Great, we'll satisfy that. We've got finance to go. I'm waiting for my broker to get back to me. We're good to go. If the report identifies issues, you've got to gather those quotes. So get estimates from the builders, the plumbers, the electricians, the termite treatment specialist. Usually if there's all of those 4 professionals needed, it's probably too much work. Every problem has a solution. It just has a cost attached to it. And you've got to work out what that cost is, but it doesn't mean that the vendor's going to wear that. So another thing as well is when you're extending the pest and building clause, if you're doing it on, like this plumbing question, we needed to extend the pest and building clause because I've done my pest and building clause. It's been 12 days. Now I need to get a plumber out there. Do you know any plumbers, Mr. Agent? Are there any plumbers? Don't go with their plumber. Get your property manager's plumber because they're going to give them, there's going to be no incentive then for the agent. But yeah, you just need to book that in. And then that allows you to assess the overall costs of it. So if a repair is minor, you can organize that and understand that. But essentially the key takeaways from this is act early, move fast to getting these things fixed, communicate clearly, keep the agent informed about the inspection, the dates, and all of these things. Never negotiate, don't negotiate just yet when you're having these check-in calls. Hey, Mr. Agent, just letting you know, yeah, we found a water leak in the bathroom. I just want to get a plumber out there to check. He's like, are you going to negotiate? Every problem has a solution. It just has a cost attached. That's what one of my amazing mentors said. I need to figure out what it is and then we can chat afterwards. And then they'll probably say, just letting you know, we're not negotiating. And to be honest, they may say that. Yeah, just here I am here. They may say that. And then that means, thank you for letting me. Okay, so they're not going to negotiate at all. I need a brand new bathroom and we're going to crash this deal. Is that what you're saying? Because I want to organize a plumber? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. There is $0 negotiation. So that's when you need to chat with the agent because then you're going to save yourself $300. Say, look, if this plumbing comes back, I want to work with you on this deal. I want to keep this deal together. But yeah, if you're saying it's dead in the water, then yeah, I'll just pull out now because I'm going to probably ask for a negotiation. But most likely, to be honest, mate, based on what I was chatting to the pest and building inspector, it's just a regrout. So that's $1,500 or whatever it is. So if it's that, we're good. But if it's something more, you're saying that there's no negotiation whatsoever. Correct. Cool. To be honest, I'm willing to take that risk and on the $1,500 and pay the $300 to find out if I want to keep this deal. But yeah, if there is something major, then you just need to pull out. And that is the reality of it. Stay calm. Step number 3, stay calm. Reports look bad. It's only until you jump on the phone with the inspector. What I've found, not every single inspector in the world is the best, but most inspectors are really nice people, really friendly, really smart, really switched on. In fact, and I love a chat. They're always driving. If they don't answer, they'll be under a roof or inside the subfloor or whatever. And then you're good to go. And then the other important point on the negotiation side of things, which we'll cover off in the next section, is just know your rights, know what you can do, be ahead of the game and know what your report is saying. And really, without this due diligence step, you're going in there blind. So stay proactive, keep the communication clear, be on top of all of the deadlines so you don't miss any of the key dates, extend the key dates if you have to. And yeah, you'll be good to go. You can safeguard your investment that way. And if it sets you up for a great negotiation, that's amazing. And yes, the below we have a template. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to jump into another video. I won't have it in this section. I'll have it in another lesson because this has taken longer than I thought, of an actual property where I purchased it, and we purchased it. It had a plumbing problem. I'll show you the negotiation emails that I used and how we can get access to the discount. Rock and roll. Thanks, guys. Good luck.